No Musicianship 5, Caitlin and Grumpybach and Dodgy Mozart because he's decided that he's going to be a part of this now. Welcome to what is our final video! At last, the term has come to an end, and despite whatever may be thrown at us, music education and the work of Bach will prevail. With or without me, apparently. I'd like to put out, I'm wearing my party top because it's the final week of term, so, you know, giving off some serious disco grandma vibes. If you like pina coladas and getting caught in the rain. So what we're going to do today is review what we've covered this term, mostly because there's been an awful lot of information thrown your way. So it would be good if I could just tie things up now and kind of pinpoint some bits in the videos where stuff, you know, keeps cropping up, and then maybe fill in some of the bigger gaps. So a bit of a chill and a chat, you know, grab a cup of tea, can have, you know, take some notes if you want, but it won't be a heavy note-taking kind of video like the Pastorals one, which was very heavy. I'm so sorry. Sorry about not doing a video last week either. Life happens. Ironically, you guys were supposed to have a dep last week anyway, ignoring the plague thing, because I was supposed to be in Germany on a choir tour and singing in Thomaskirche, which is Bach's church, as we hopefully have figured out from the videos. Wagner video, I said that? Which alas I didn't do anyway, so the whole point of me setting up a Grumpybach Instagram so I could take pictures of Bach in Bach's church.
Hello darkness, my old friend.
So the point of these videos was to give you guys a bit more context to the theory that we learn, which kind of was put across in the form of music history. It's not only a piece and a composer that matters, but also their context when looking at both a single work and the entire output of a composer. Thankfully, videos are actually a great format in terms of teaching this and learning this, because you can kind of put the music you're talking about in the background and put up photos and things like that. So this is actually a very efficient way of doing things. Made sense. So hopefully we enjoyed learning this stuff in this way, kind of made the most of our interesting situation. Along with this, I really wanted to give you guys the freedom to make your own opinions on some of the topics that we covered, because that's something I felt I was missing at school, in that it was just an awful lot of spoon feeding and memorising and things. But if you're spoon fed an opinion, then that kind of becomes your opinion if you're not used to thinking for yourself and making your own opinions. How many times can you say opinion in a sentence? So that's what I wanted to do here. For example, the Wagner video, I didn't want to put across how I feel about Wagner too much, you know, I'll continue making sarcastic comments and things like that, you know, that's going to happen whatever I'm teaching. That's just, you know, part of the disco grandma vibe. But I don't want to say to you, you know, well, I think it's fine to listen to Wagner, or I don't think it's fine to listen to Wagner, and things, because I want you to make your own decisions, because at the end of the day, there's not a right or wrong answer, as we discussed. So I wanted to kind of bring that across all of the topics we looked at, as well as promote a bit more independent learning outside of class if you wanted to, and you don't have to, you can just take what I spoon feed you and go about your merry way, and that is adequate, that's fine. But again, make the most of this random plaguey situation. You've got lots of time in your hands maybe. If you do, you can delve in more. Great, fine. You know, good use of time. In my opinion anyway, not that I'm putting my opinions upon you. Make your own opinions. What's good use of your time? You decide. So the activities in the listening list, some of which are very, very long, because they kind of have to be honest, at the end of each video, will give you the tools in which to go forth and look at this stuff in your own time and help form your opinions, as well as looking at the context kind of side of things, which I have discussed. And by the way, you're allowed to change your opinion over time. This is completely fine. You know, as we get older, we experience more things, our musical tastes change as well. You'd be surprised how much changes in musical taste between your age and my age, which I'd like to think is not too far away, although it gets faster every single time I think about it. As we learn more, as our tastes change, then we might change our opinions, and that is completely fine. You're allowed to change your opinion. For example, I, believe it or not, didn't used to like Bach. I know, who would have thought? Because I used to think that he was just kind of some stuffy old guy who thought he was a genius and wrote loads of mathematical music, which is not, to be fair, incorrect. But as you get older you see, well, it's not all mathematical, there's great beauty in the works of Bach. He is very important, and I love Bach now, I think it's absolutely wonderful. But I didn't when I was like your age. Also, I discovered the most incredible thing this week. Bach wrote a cantata about coffee. Legit, he loved coffee, wrote a cantata about coffee. I mean, I discovered that now, but just think of all I could have discovered in Thomas Kirche when I was singing there.
I've come to talk with you again.
Anyway, let's try and round up what we've covered. So here are the classes in chronological order. I'm going to put them somewhere. There are a few that don't have a time period, if you like, but even in these videos that focus on one particular composer or topic, we do branch out of time to see how they got there and things like that. However, not to the point of like informed performance, which I literally covered like very early to modern, and then the Oxford Music Tour, it was just, whoever was there, and how to analyse as well. Whilst we analysed a Baroque piece of music, because we've done a lot of work on Baroque music, so that would be the most safe option to go to. You can apply that to anything. But anyway, this is just kind of a rough order chronologically of what happened. The Pastorals video covered a lot of ground, but because we kind of ended at the English Nationalist School in that video, and then they kind of cropped up on the Oxford Music Tour as well, I've kind of put them in the English Nationalist School period in terms of the chronological order, even though we started again with the kind of magical stuff. So filling in some gaps, in terms of what happened before Bach, we touched on it very, very slightly, whether that was kind of realised or not. A long, long time ago, music and life was much simpler, although still riddled with bouts of plague. Music was only allowed to be about God at this point. You had church music and a bit of folk music as well on the sidelines, which was kind of music of the people, peasant music and so on, but that was basically it. Church music started off as monophonic chanting, then they thought, hey, instead of one person chanting, how about we have two people chanting on different notes? Wow, two people chant on different notes in different rhythms. Wow, three people, four people, and thus polyphony was born. This then continued until the Monteverdi era, when people started to say, hey, but what about if I don't want to write about God? What if I want to write about my girlfriend? That's not very holy. Your mum's not very holy, I'm going to write about my girlfriend. And then that was that, really. You then had a split in choral music particularly, although this also happens with instrumental music, however, as there's not words with instrumental music, it's a bit more, it's a bit easier, I guess. So you then have the split. You have the religious music and motets, for example, which are sacred text, and then you split off with madrigals, which is not sacred text, which is secular text, which is usually about naughty things. That's why I didn't do a video about it. Music then split into further categories until the point where it became very multi-purposed. It also got to the point where you were allowed to write about both God and your girlfriend, not necessarily in the same piece. It wasn't a case of, ha, I write sacred music, or ha, I write secular music. You could do both, and that was chill. Music was in modes at this point, which is different to the major minor scales used in the Baroque to Romantic periods. But then, hark, came along equal temperament. I'm not going to go into the hows and whys and whats too much, because this is kind of complicated, not necessarily super important, and I can't demonstrate it very well. I'll link to some videos below that explain this really well, and you can hear what's going on and stuff like that, because I can't really do that here without like tuning pianos or casually learning string instrument, which I'm not going to do now, sorry. But long story short, pianos are not in tune. Music is a lie. Tuning is a lie. Nothing is real. Sorry, not sorry. Pianos were in tune pre-Bach, but the difficulty with them being perfectly in tune was that you could only modulate or change key to the couple surrounding keys, so the dominant and subdominant, effectively relative minor as well, was fine. But if you went much further than that, then the music would sound severely out of tune. So they instead made up a new tuning system for pianos, keyboards, organs, whatever, so that they can play in all of the modes or all major minor keys and it not sound out of tune severely, so that they could, they could change key into many different ones, and it was fine. It didn't sound like all of a sudden it's got really strange. So then enter Bach. The purpose of the Bach Prelude and Fugues from the Well-Tempered Clavier is to make use of this new-ish phenomenon of pianos now being equally tempered. So the well-tempered clavier means well-tempered, like in-tune, well-tuned claviers piano. So it's like, here is my book for the in-tune piano. And that means you can play in every single major or minor key and it not sound severely out of tune. Huzzah! And that's all you really need to know about that